Not the content of it, because that's not really something that we want to impose on instructors, but to look at kind of a best practices of what does make a successful online course. What are the components of an online course that seem to work not just here at SUNY Ulster, but in the thousands of courses that are being taught SUNY-wide.
And our overriding concern was, could we make this student-centered and faculty-driven? So that was what we really wanted to have our overriding approach be. And then we went into looking at who's doing what's available, not reinventing any wheel, and also always coming back, can we plug into not about the content, but actually how a student uses a course and how an instructor designs a course, and not the material itself. So we'll go to...
Some of the things that we did during this, you don't have to read everything here, but you do have to memorize it for the test. No, wait a minute. Sorry. Right? Basically, one of the things that we want to do, similar to what Nick did with SACS, is to say, well, what are other schools doing? Looking at the SUNY Learning Network, Quality Matters, even though there was a lot of opposition to that on campus, we wanted to see what that was about. Looking at Penn State, you see the bottom one there. Meeting with faculty members here. Meeting and food here goes together very nicely. And we had a lot of success eating, and we had some success meeting. And here's an example of Penn State. Just an example of what we're looking for. On the bottom there, number 1, navigation. Number 2, student orientation. Number 3, syllabus. Right? You can see how number 4, instructor response and availability. So here we're looking at these issues that are not content related, really. They are about a person's approach to online learning, and they are things that over time have been tested as being successful in terms of students.
Right, and the first thing you would think about is face-to-face as opposed to online. So again, the way it's being assessed is very similar to a face-to-face course. If the syllabus is clear, is the instructor available, all the things you would expect in a typical course. So we brought that into the assessment for the online because, as Jim said in the beginning, we noticed that it wasn't here on campus. There wasn't a clearly defined method or structure for evaluating and assessing online courses.
We actually had a lot of fun, meeting with some of the faculty here and having it was really open-ended, meaning we weren't looking to, see if a certain method was going to work. And we give people like Steve Schimmerich, who's now leaving the room, some credit for that. Right? It was really great to find out what teachers are already doing and what they feel is very useful. And boy, there were like incredibly divergent methods in what we found. And, part of that has impacted our study because, we're student-centered. We really do want to find out in an empirical way what is it that breeds student success in online courses? And that's kind of what it's about. And not to make it something that we're forcing instructors to do, but that we're creating an environment where they can choose to take these practices if they want to. There's some of what Duchess does.
Right, and again, what Jim is talking about is when he uses the term student-centered, that means how the student uses it. So we hope that students go into more than one online course. And so that if they take one online course and they're successful with it and they're comfortable with that, and they continue to take another one, that when they enter the next one, there are similarities in the way in which they navigate. We have found, even interviewing students, that was a number one concern. They would take one course, it was okay, or they'd take one course, they thought it was fantastic. And then they'd go and say, well, I'm going to take another one, and they were very confused. And there were a lot of the things that were in the first one that they felt comfortable with were missing in the next one. What that did for a number of students, not all of them, they got a little turned off by taking an online course at that point. And they would say, well, I'm not really good at online courses, so I may not take that. It was a little confusing, and the instructor wasn't accessible. I couldn't understand how to navigate. I didn't see the assignments. I didn't understand how they graded. I couldn't find the grading. Those kinds of things, which is what Jim and I wanted to address in this. So then we were talking with the individual faculty, and you can see who they are, so that we could find out what they were doing in their courses that worked.
The other thing, I think we skipped it on the previous, oh, it's okay, we don't want to make them dizzy. Yeah, number 4 there, right? Number 3 and 4. At the end of this process, what we found out, in a sense, is we ended up back where we started, which is kind of funny, right? We went to Penn State, we went to FIT, we went to Dutchess, and we did some research on, well, you know, what do you do? And I don't know if you read the slide from FIT, but you can see, boy, there are some schools out there that rigidly police every step of the way, from the formation of the course to working with the instructional designer 6 months in advance. Right, you can just look through some of that. There's, you know, there's buy-in from the faculty association, from the Senate. Many other schools have a very different and much more rigid approach. And, you know, I don't think that was something that we were looking for. But in the end of the process, you can go forward one, oh, sorry, go back, one more, yeah, one more, yeah, there we go. No, one more. One more. I'm totally lost.
Well,
Oh.
let's go
That
forward. I
one?
think we want to go.
Oh, there it is, I'm
Continue.
sorry. 3 and 4, right? So 3 and 4 was, at the end of the process, we met with these faculty and said, okay, we're going to evaluate your courses. And they were kind enough to let us do that, right? And so we evaluated their courses using the SLN, the SUNY Learning Network guidelines that faculty members get if they take the training. Years ago, when I took the SLN training, it was going somewhere else, off campus, taking training, and it was kind of nice because, again, there was a lunch, there was colleagues from other schools, and so you got to participate in training that was very standardized. And so when I started teaching online, there was a standard set of trainings that was involved. And lo and behold, after this...
Templates.
What?
And templates.
Yeah, and templates, sorry. Right? Lo and behold, after this search far and wide to India and Tibet and all these places to the mountaintop, we ended up right back here at home saying, you know what's the best? Is what you hold in your hand there, if everybody got a copy, right? And what you hold in your hand is the course checklist that was made by SUNY, that every instructor who takes the SUNY Learning Network official training should be able to do in the preparation for a new course.
Okay,
I think this is great.
let's move further down in the
Work
slide.
with the interactive.
This is
Oh,
going to show up.
okay.
Okay. So again, let's go back one slide, just quick. When working with these individual faculty members, we went over their courses with them. And we simply just followed this to see if they were in line with it, what they thought worked, what didn't work. And we weren't interested, again, in the content, but rather the navigation. And so we literally sat with them with these forms. So we go to the next one. The input that we got from these kinds of interactions, or this kind of interaction, was very useful. The faculty that participated found it useful. At first, it's a little intimidating because you think your course is going to be evaluated. And we reassured them and showed them this, and then walked through their course with them and said, this is how you would evaluate this. This one's missing, or this one's not clear. And they would say, great, but overall, they had very solid courses, very easy to navigate, but missing one or two little things. And so for the faculty that looked at their own courses with us, they walked away saying, you know, I want to make a couple little changes, and if I develop another course, I think I'll return to this form and take a look at it and work with it. And again, it is not perfect, but it is a reasonable starting point when developing an online course.
And there's something to be said for the collegiality that resulted. I mean, it's very rare that we get all in the same room and we share our observations more than our opinions about a course, and we offer, I mean, Sean from a visual perspective, perhaps me from a process perspective, all in the service of students having the best course that we possibly can have online. And if you can see in blue here, for example, work with the Faculty Association, one of the things that we did get out of this is to make the running of a new course more standardized, so that a person has to work with HOPE, a person has to take formalized training, Faculty members were more agreeable to this, so that new courses coming online will be the product of having the training that leads to this checklist.
And,
Right.
and where this actually came from was FIT in particular. Their faculty association required this of them because their number one concern was overall quality of the courses. So was the quality consistent? And the faculty body actually required it. They wanted it, not the administration, not an outside body, because they wanted to have consistency in the quality of the courses they were offering. And so it's part of their contract. And so it's part of an entire structure, and it is a year lead-in. So when you say you're going to do a course, and by the way, when they say everybody buys in, the dean cannot override it. The president of the school cannot override the structure. It goes against their contract. So that's something to think about, to have a year lead-in. You raise your hand and say, I want to do a course, you start into the process.
Anybody having questions so far? So I think that was really valuable for us as a faculty to offer this, and particularly with Hope, and having Hope as an integral part of this grant. I mean, she really helped us tremendously. We wanted there to be a benefit in the way she helped faculty, and one of the clear benefits was that there'd be a guideline and a timeline so that you could offer the most resources possible to faculty teaching new courses. And then I think there was one of the other things that we still really actually need to do is to just take this and have a form letter to all of the department chairs, because rather than making this a mandated evaluation, which we would never do, we've certainly heard enough from department chairs who are saying, well, how can I evaluate a course that might be in a different content area or might not be something that I'm familiar with content-wide? Well, to us, this became a perfect conclusion to say, well, if you're a department chair and you have to evaluate a faculty member's course, this is certainly one guideline to seeing what elements are there in terms of best practices. They're not going to assure you content-wide that all the principles of psychology are in a course, but they can tell you that the best practices for the methodology itself is there.
Right. So when you think about developing a course, we've been talking about something after the fact. So you're thinking about how evaluation usually sounds like you do that at the end. What we were concerned about is if a new course is developed following this, then it's easier to assess it and it's easier to evaluate it. And also there's another thing that happens. We mentioned that we were concerned about being student-centered and faculty-driven. Faculty are just as important as students in the course development. So we have found that there are faculty that develop courses that aren't necessarily well designed to deliver their information and interact with the students. The faculty themselves don't like their own courses, and they don't want to they don't want to teach it again, or they don't want to develop another online course. They didn't follow this. And so because they have say in the development and running of their course, they actually don't know that they have options, because they're teaching the course they wanted the way they teach it, maybe face to face, and it doesn't always translate their subject matter the same way. But we have found that faculty lose interest in teaching online because of the structure of their own courses.
In a way, I relate to what you were saying, Nick, about the formative evaluation, because here we really are looking at a student's qualitative. We want a student to leave this class, of course, having a good grade, but saying, I enjoyed the experience. I mean, there's nothing better for us instructors at the end of the semester for somebody to say to us, I enjoyed your course, and I don't even know what this person looks like, yet they enjoyed the course. Oh my gosh, right? So there is a qualitative element in that, and like Sean is saying, I think that that's an important thing to get at when you don't have the visceral, the body language, all this other stuff that makes up being in a classroom. Your jokes don't, go over quite the same way. So I think in the end that this is a tool, it's a resource. It's not something that's going to become mandatory other than what we've been putting into the contract in terms of training. But I think we've come at a very valuable tool that hopefully will be used by department chairs and other people.
recommend.
Thank